How can any correctional officer allow an inmate to make you a puppet on a string? How can you allow an inmate to be your puppet master? Well, it's a question we may never ever fully answer. We know that people fall prey to inmates, prison staff, uniformed correctional officers every month across the entire country in all 50 states. If you don't believe me, just check out the records from your prisons and the reports from your prisons. Hi, I'm Gary York, True Prison Stories. Please subscribe if you like this video. It's a sad day when a correctional officer is arrested for bringing contraband to an inmate. We just had another one here in Florida at a county jail. She was bringing contraband to an inmate, and she admitted it during her interview, and the contraband, this was of course after the contraband was discovered. That was on April 3rd, 2020 at Calhoun County Jail in Florida. Now, on February 13th, 2020, I did an article, or I had an article published by Corrections One, online corrections magazine and training center. The article was about visitors bringing contraband into the jails and prisons, which we know happens. And I wanted to give that side of the perspective, or give another perspective, because we're talking about staff on many occasions in the media bringing in contraband. It's those few bad apples, by the way, that are tainting the image of the honest officers. Remember, and don't ever forget, and I can prove it to you as well as what I'm going to talk about today, the majority of your correctional officers are hardworking, honest people. It's these bad apples that make us look bad, and we have to do something about it. But the article was published, and I was very surprised about the comments, because when Corrections One publishes an article, they'll put it out on the internet first in their newsletter, and then it'll hit their Facebook page. Well, when it hit their Facebook page, what I was surprised about was it got many comments from correctional officer staff saying, what about the dirty officers? What about the corrupt officers? My whole article was geared towards visitors bringing in contraband, but correctional officers were stating, what about the dirty staff? Which tells you something. The honest officers don't like dirty staff, and I've said this for years. Honest correctional officers do not like corrupt officers. They taint their image, and they place them in danger by bringing contraband into the prison that makes the inmates high, that causes the inmates to attack officers. The dirty staff bring in weapons for inmates and things that can be used on the honest officers. So, I was surprised about the comments, but glad to see that officers know we need to do something about this. So, we need to get our governors and our secretaries of corrections on the ball and do a better fight against the corrupt prison staff. Now, I have here a piece of paper. It's up in the corner here now on the screen. But on this paper, it shows the arrests made in Florida prisons since January 1st. So in the Florida Department of Corrections reported incidents, 11 officers have been arrested so far, 2 food service workers, 1 nurse, 1 education supervisor, 1 visitor, and 7 inmates. Now, as the year goes on, there'll be more of each of these. This goes all the way back to 2019. I'm only giving you the last 3 months of 2020. You can see the list can get very long. It's very disturbing to me when we have this much going on. Now, this is only Florida Department of Corrections, so we do have 49 other states, folks. This is state prison, not including all the county jails. As I mentioned earlier, one of our jails had a detention deputy arrested. So, this is a problem that we're going to have to face. Now, we always hear what type of officer falls prey to inmates. The one with low self-esteem. The one who needs to be told how pretty they look or how handsome they are if it's a female inmate with a male inmate. And yes, that's true. Some of them do fall prey to the pretty poetry, to the beautiful pictures and flowers that the inmates draw for an officer and give to them, the wonderful compliments they receive. That is a very weak individual, a very low self-esteem person, a person who needs attention. We need to find out who they are and either get them toughened up, retrain them, or get rid of them, because they are a danger to our system. But we also, in my opinion, have a whole different type. Not the type that falls prey just to simple manipulation and falls into the manipulation trap. We have another side. We have officers coming into the system that are just corrupt from the beginning. And I'm just going to say it like it is. They've either been farmed out by prison gangs to come in and work in the prison, to then work for the prisoners, bringing in their contraband and giving them sex. It's happened. It's happened a lot, folks. And there's documented cases. And they are the ones that are super, super dangerous, because they're the ones that are not in it just for the money. They're in it because of a belief of their gang orientation and what they must do to help the gang members in prison. They'll bring in the drugs, the weapons that will harm all the honest prison staff. And it's not just uniformed officers. As you see, a nurse every now and then. A lot of food service employees over the years, in my experience, I've investigated many food service employees. I mean, it's a shame the low pay they get, but they're low-paid employees. Not much of a background check, in my opinion, is done on them. And they start working for the inmates, many of them. Not all of them, of course. We can't label all food service employees just like you as corrupt, just like you cannot label all correctional officers as corrupt. So when I'm speaking about each one of these jobs within the prison, not all of them are this way, folks. It's just those few bad apples. Some fall prey to the inmate manipulation and games that we all know about, or we should know about. We all should be trained regularly on inmate manipulation. So there should be no excuse to falling for the inmate manipulation game if we are trained properly. Okay, I can't feel sorry for any person that brings contraband to an inmate and somebody goes, well, they fell for the inmate manipulation trap. Boo-hoo. Well, it's very important, inmate manipulation training. It's a very important topic. I'm not saying it isn't. But you're not going to get me to feel sorry for an officer who falls for the inmate manipulation game. You should know what you're facing when you come into this job, and it's the duty of your supervisors and managers to provide you the training on what can happen to you, so that when you do get caught bringing marijuana to an inmate, it shows in the records that you've been trained on inmate manipulation. And if you're just crooked from the beginning, then I have no pity on you whatsoever. I hope the judge slams the hammer and gives you a prison sentence. But with that said, why do you want to end up on a probable cause affidavit? Why do you want to end up on a probable cause affidavit in jail facing criminal charges for an inmate? Do you know that once you give the inmate one little item, a cigarette, a piece of gum, half of your sandwich from home, you are now under the control of a puppet master. The inmate is now your puppet master. And when you go home at night, they sit and laugh and joke about how stupid you are and how they have you. And they have you, folks. They're playing you like a fiddle, and they've got you on their string, and they're making you dance. You think you're cool bringing the inmates contraband. You think you're great making extra money, hard cash, $1,200 a pop, cash free, tax free. Let me tell you, that's going to be a short-lived life, because it is sad that this is happening, but at least these arrests are evidence that the Florida Department of Corrections is investigating and arresting these people. Now, a lot of these officer arrests are given to the investigators because another officer who is honest sees another officer with the contraband and reports them. Sometimes it's the inmates who report these things going on, and then it does take investigative skills to follow the trail and catch the group involved. So some of these arrests are easily handed to the investigator, and some of them take time to investigate. But at least we're seeing some arrests being made. I said 11 officers and 7 inmates. That's what I'm gathering off of this 2020 report from January to March. I've counted each one individually. I believe you could get a lot more visitors than one visitor, because I used to work the drug interdiction team, and we would sometimes catch 2 or 3 visitors a weekend, sometimes 4 visitors a weekend. One time, we caught 3 visitors at Sumter Correctional Institution in the same day, bringing contraband in their vehicles or trying to get it through to the inmates. So I think we could catch more visitors than what this list shows, but we'll see what happens as the year progresses. What I'm trying to get across here is we have a very huge problem with staff members, visitors, and inmates, those few bad apples, dealing in contraband. And it will never end, in my opinion. No, it won't. Why am I going to sit here and say we can stop it 100% when that's not true? It will never end, in my opinion, but I think we can fight it. And I think we can stop more people than we are right now. But the problem is we need more manpower, we need more money, we need more investigative tools. And folks, for all you honest officers, we need you to report it. If you can report these things to your supervisors and they get it to the right people, we can catch these folks. We can lock them up. Remember, once we lock them up, it's the criminal justice system that takes over then. I know many of these officers that have been arrested end up on probation, and people say, why are they on probation? Why aren't they in prison? Well, if we can set up a drug deal for trafficking amount of cocaine or heroin or whatever the drug is, we can get them a prison sentence. It's happened before. We've had people, officers arrested, prison staff arrested, that did get 3-4 years in prison for dealing in a trafficking amount of drugs. But the problem is, when we catch a staff member bringing in drugs, it's usually a smaller amount in most cases, and they have no prior criminal record, and there is a score sheet that we have to follow here in Florida. So no prior arrests, no prior criminal record, they're usually going to get felony probation as a plea bargain. So what I'm trying to say is when officers get mad and say, why do they get off so easy, these crooked people that jeopardize our lives? It's the criminal justice system and the way it works, and it's the system we have in place. It's better than many countries. It's not the best, but it's better than many countries. So that's why you're going to see so many people end up with just probation. I just thought I would throw that in there because many people have said, why aren't they all going to prison? Well, you know, a lot of the inmates we have in prison were on probation 4 times, 5 times before they ever got their first prison sentence. So as the world turns, so does the criminal justice system and the way it works. Anyway, I want all of you honest, hardworking officers to know we appreciate you. Please stay safe during this coronavirus time. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for putting your lives on the line every day. And let's get these crooked, corrupt prison staff out of our way. We have enough to worry about with diseases, viruses, and the inmates. We don't need this to have to worry us as well. Thank you for watching. Gary York, True Prison Story.